So you've learned your pentatonic box. Now what? What's new and exciting? It's Kevin O'Shaughnessy here to help you get better at the guitar. On this channel, you'll get demonstrations of ergonomics, the mechanics of particular techniques, as well as information on learning how to read music and some basic music theory. Sometimes the things that other guitar teachers tell you you don't need are exactly what you do need to get you to that next level. I'll also be sharing my own music from time to time so you can hear some real-world examples of the things that I'm demonstrating. So today I want to show you two things. One, how to get out of the pentatonic box, and two, how to use the pentatonic box to learn the fretboard a little better. Let's get started. So if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I'm a stickler for ergonomics. So grab your guitar, sit on the edge of your seat, sit upright with a straight back, no slouching over the guitar, and push the neck forward so that it's on about a 45-degree angle from the rest of your body. And if you'd like some more detailed instructions on that orientation, I've got a link to a free PDF that will change the way you play. It's in the description below. So for this lesson, we're going to be using the pentatonic scale at the 5th position, or the 5th fret. That means we're going to be in the key of A minor. Now, you've probably learned this scale either from a shape that you saw online or given to you by your guitar teacher, or using tablature and the frets. So looking at the frets, we've got 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. Now, the first thing we want to do is memorize the letter names for the notes that are in that scale. It's a pentatonic scale, meaning 5 tones, so there's only 5 letters that we need to learn. Those letters are A, C, D, E, and G. Now, that sounds simple enough, right? So we walk up the scale saying the letter names. A, C, D, E, G. Now, the next collection of notes are going to be the same letter names, just an octave higher. A, C, D, E, G. And because whatever we do on the low E string, we do on the high E string, once again, we have A and C. So if we put that all together, we have A, C, D, E, G. A, C, D, E, G, A, C. And those are the notes of the pentatonic scale at the 5th position. Keep in mind that if you start that scale on the 3rd fret, you'll have the G minor pentatonic scale. And if you start it on the 7th fret, you'll have the B minor pentatonic scale, and so on. The position determines the pitch. Now, hopefully, one of the things you noticed as we went up the scale is that once you finish the first collection of 5 notes, the second collection sounds the same, only an octave higher. Listen close. So when you add the high E string to that, you can see you have almost 2.5 octaves in that position that you can play with. And that can be pretty important when it comes to things like improvisation. Now, you may have noticed that there is one small problem, and this leads to the second thing we want to do, which is to begin to expand out of that box. Notice that when you get from the low octave to the high octave, you're playing the same pitches, but the fingering is completely different. Let me show you again. A, C, D, E, G. But now, doing the next octave, we start on the 3rd finger at the 7th fret instead of the 1st finger at the 5th fret. A, C, D, E, G. That can be a little confusing. So this is where we get to the second part, where we get to expand out of the pentatonic box. We're going to be playing a lot of the same pitches. In fact, they're even going to be in the same register, but we're going to fret them differently, and this should make things a little easier. So the guitar neck really isn't a big mystery. If the notes are laid out in a particular way on one string, you can figure that aside from starting on a different fret, they're going to be laid out the same way on other strings. It's really not rocket science, and I'll show you what I mean. If we play the first octave of the pentatonic scale, we're going to end on G. A, C, D, E, G. Now, instead of fretting the next note with our 3rd finger at the 7th fret, what we're going to do is we're going to slide our 1st finger to the 7th fret. And watch what happens to the notes as I play that. A, C, D, E, G, slide with the first finger to the 7th fret, and now those notes are going to lay out just as they did in the first octave. A, C, D, E, G. Well, not quite. You probably heard that last note sound a little off. That's because the way the guitar is tuned, you have to shift the notes up 1 fret when you're playing on the B string. That G isn't going to be directly under the D like it was in the previous octave. You're going to move it up 1 fret like this. A, C, D, E, G. So if we put both of those octaves together again, we have this. A, C, D, E, G, slide up. A, C, D, E, B string compensation, G, A. And I could continue from here as well, A, C, D, E. Now we've covered a whole diagonal range of the instrument, and we've learned where 5 notes are, A, C, D, E, and G, and we've learned where they are in roughly 3 octaves, and that's pretty cool. A, C, D, E, G, slide up, A, C, D, E, G, compensate on the B string, slide up, A, C, D, E. The third step here is to have a little fun and pay attention to where some of these relationships are. A to G is fairly common, and you'll notice that it's 2 frets behind A. That means that the A at the 5th fret of the E string is 2 frets above G. You may also notice that when you're playing in the box position, the A is on the 7th fret and the C is on the next string at the 5th fret. It creates a sort of diagonal direction like this. Well, that's going to be the same from the low E string to the A string as well. If A is at the 5th fret, then C is going to be on the next string at the 3rd fret. Now we've got yet another extension where we can start on the G below the A on the E string and continue up like this. G, A, C, slide up to D, D, E, G, A, C, again slide up to D, D, E, G, remember your B string compensation, and then we have A, C, slide up to D, and then E. So hopefully what you're seeing is that that pattern of 5 notes can be cartwheeled all over the neck if you pay attention to the relationships between the notes. G and A are 2 frets apart. They're always going to be 2 frets apart as long as the notes are played on the same string. A and C are going to be 3 frets apart, unless you're playing them on different strings. Then the C, instead of being 3 frets higher than the A, is going to be 1 string higher and 2 frets back. And those patterns are going to be relatively consistent over the length of the guitar. The only real difference is that B string, where you have to move everything up 1 fret. Other than that, whatever pattern you're using on the lower strings can be used on the higher strings. So I hope that helps. Question of the day: what is your biggest challenge with the pentatonic scale? Leave me a comment below and it may become the subject of a future video. If you'd like to support the channel, liking and subscribing are always helpful, but if you'd like to take it a step further, you can pick up a digital copy of my album, Persistence of Vision. It is full of Joe Satriani-like instrumentals, story-driven songs, and a lot of great riffs. It is everything that I love about rock and roll. In the meantime, go practice, and I'll see you in the next video.